So welcome, good evening, welcome. My name is Kwabena. Welcome. Today we have a chat with Ruth on some of the things that we should know about ourselves, Africans on the continent and Africans outside the continent, particularly in the US, because that's where she lives, and that's where she will talk from that position. So, Madam, welcome.
Thank you. Greetings.
Yes, greetings. So, you would have to do some little introduction on yourself, and we will pick it from there.
Well, I'm from California, currently living in the South, where my family is from.
Okay.
Looking to repack back to Africa, to the Gambia, to be that's the place that I'm choosing to go. That's been calling upon me, and that's about it, really.
That's perfect. Okay, so I'm also in Ghana, West Africa. That's where I live with my family, and that's where we try with life.
Land of the return.
Okay, land of the return. So growing up, what were some of the things that you heard about Africa? Good, bad, what are some of the things that you grew up with, the perception about Africa?
Well, for being in America, their strategy was to keep us divided. So all the images and things that we saw here were the hut, living in huts, no food, the poverty, war. In different countries, they would show all of the war parts about it, the corruption of it. It was never anything positive. They made Egypt and Morocco, they made it seem as if they weren't even parts of Africa. I mean, it took me a long time. I learned about both early in school, but it wasn't actually until, God, almost like my senior year that I truly looked at the map and truly looked at where these countries were. And I'm like, wait, that's Africa.
Okay.
I mean, literally, I thought Egypt was a country all by itself somewhere else, but I finally found out it was actually part of Africa. And I was like, wow, they are really like not letting us, trying to let us know that all of you, even, when you take even the accomplishments of what happened with Egypt, they didn't let us correlate that with being African. So it was like, wow, there was actually some amazing things that us Africans really had did. And I mean, it took a long while. They did a really good job in the West, at least in the States, of keeping us misinformed
about Africa. So what kind of Egypt did they show? What kind of Egypt did you see?
Really, it was just like when they show Africa here, if it wasn't about war, it wasn't on the news. So the other images that we did get was either through cartoon, where they would be having it looking like some big forehead, big lips, loincloth. And if it wasn't for cartoons, the other images that we saw were from what they called the aid fundraising people, which obviously will always have the big pot belly hunk kids and flies all over them, looking hungry, and talking about, oh, let's please feed Africa, you know. And that was the image that we always saw. That one was on a constant. They still show it to this day. They still show it that way.
Yes.
I also saw where somebody was showing that they're still pleading that also in the UK. So those images of Africa in 2020 are the same as they were back in the 80s. That Africa's poor, Africa's kids, you know, they're still living in huts. The kids are still hungry with pot bellies, with the flies still on them. They're still showing that. And if they show anything even a little more current than that and get rid of the pot belly kids, they'll still show kids living in what we, you know, basically like a slum, like what they would show for South Africa. With the tin hut, you know, the tin roof places, and in the gutter, basically looking, and the kids looking semi-dressed in Americanized clothes or Western clothes, but it's like not the best of clothes or whatever. And those are the images that they're still showing to this day. So they're still trying to condition us that Africa has nothing.
Okay. So what makes you, what do you think is the way it is? Why do they have to show Africa this way?
Rephrase that?
Yes, I said that. What do you think they have to still impress on us, this kind of image? Why do they have to do that?
To keep people away, but still send money that they can steal.
Okay.
I mean, if you can't honestly ask me, because I have not heard truly of many foundations actually getting the millions that they are receiving, or if even if you don't say millions, the hundreds of thousands that they're still receiving. Those hundreds of thousands are either pounds or US dollars that they're receiving. So that money in any country that they go to in Africa, those thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars should go a very long way. So those foundations to me are stealing the money, but they're using it on the backs of images of poverty.
Yes.
And on top of that, when we see that, it still would make the country look poor. So for us, it's still indoctrinating that, you know, Africa is poor. They're still living in huts. In 2020, they're still living in huts. They're not going to no cities. They're not showing you Kenya. They're not showing you built up places in Ghana. They're not showing, you know, like Accra. They're not showing all of that. No. They're going to go out in somebody's bush and make it seem like that's how the whole of Africa is still looking like the bush. That's the images they're still showing in 2020.
What were you taught in school? What kind of this is the media. You talk about what you saw on TV, in the movies. How about the things that they were teaching and they're still teaching in school? What are some of the things that
they only talked about Egypt. In my schooling, they only spoke on Egypt, Morocco. Pretty much that was it.
And what did they say about them?
I mean, it was just the basic things, because they already know, biblical wise, you know, it's already been spoken about for Egypt and things. So it's very, that subject of even of talking about anything truly African or Egyptian or whatever was still kind of limited. That basically they would just talk about the pyramids. It was, you know, the fascination and the history about the pyramids, and then that's over.
That's over.
They don't talk much. It's just like even even outside of Africa, even for the accomplishments of things of Black America. I mean, they only teach you Malcolm X, they only teach you Martin Luther King, and it wasn't until many years later they even started incorporating Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that lasts for like a week, even though it's Black History Month. That lasts for about a week. Somebody, you know, they'll do the little play speech thing for Martin Luther King's speech. So you practice that for a while. The city, you know, different cities do different things for Martin Luther King Day, but then, you know, they'll turn around and do a little speech thing for Martin Luther King Day, and that's about it. Teaching us that we invented this or we invented that. It's like even in the history books now, right now in America, they took out that we were slaves. They no longer call us slaves. We were basically migrant workers. Like it was like we voluntarily came here. That's how they're putting it now in the history books. So they're still again writing, trying to write us.
With all the distractions that they did to the race, they just say that you're migrant workers.
Pretty much, yeah. I can't remember the exact word. It's either like they called us immigrants or it was like a migrant. I can't remember the exact words because I know when I heard it, I was so infuriated because all it taught me was that they are again attempting to wipe us out of history, to write us out. And it's always been his story, not our history.
Yes.
And it was funny because I was listening. I got a message last night. Well, I should say this morning. I got a message this morning. I think I sent it to you. Where our new elect president is was the audio was leaked out to the press, and he's declaring that by 2040, which is not that far away, in 20 years' time, Blacks will be a definite, we would be almost wiped out of America. And I'm like, and how the hell did he get to that number? And how is he already proclaiming that? So it makes you wonder what's on their mind. So you want to write us out of history. Now you're already writing us out of the census. So it's crazy. And then you wonder why they're pushing all of these shots.
Yeah.
You know.
At what point did you recognize that whatever they were telling you were not so accurate?
I think I would say probably when I started like listening to reggae, actually. So probably, and it was later in life as well. But it was probably, you know, when I truly grasped it, it was probably around when I was like 18 or 19 years old. And still at that time, there wasn't information. There was music. You know, and music was telling the story. I used to listen to a lot of Lucky Dube and Alpha Blondie.
Alpha Blondie.
And so then, you know, then I started listening and hearing different things and learning different things just through song. And I didn't grow up in an environment that cultivated knowing who we were. Actually, I didn't even get put on that path till actually probably about 7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
that where I truly, for me in my heart, there was always a yearning. I always felt this place was not for me. I don't know why. It wasn't even that I was around people that were even have that same thought, but I always felt this is the this I didn't fit here. I didn't know where I fit, but I didn't fit here. And part of that probably came from I came from a military family background. So we moved around a lot to different
Okay.
places.
Mm.
But the awakening for me was probably in about the past 7 years. And I've just been trying to absorb, learn as much as I can since then.
So how did they come? It was did they come through books or videos? How did it get?
Actually, the funny part about that was of all the black people I know in my life and have known over the years, a Manzugu put me on
Mhm.
my own path.
Okay.
And it started with a video on YouTube um, by Tariq Nasheed, Hidden Colors.
Okay.
And that set me on my path. He had gave me a link to that video, and that set me on my journey.
So what did you find? I mean, at the initial stages, what did you find? Did you feel like there were a lot of things that were hidden from you? There were a lot of things that you
Yes.
had to find
Oh,
out
yes.
about.
Oh, it was such an eye opener. I mean, I must have shared that video with everybody I know, and I still share that video to this day.
Mm,
For people that have no clue and is just getting started on their path of understanding who we are
mm,
as Black people, not only as Africans but also as Black Americans. Um,
mm.
it was God. There was so much information, so many great speakers and lecturers in his videos on that in Hidden Colors that it was almost like it pulled the wool off of my eyes.
Okay.
Um, of knowing the greatness. I mean, we always say, "Oh, we're kings and queens," and "Oh, Black people are all we were always great." We blah blah blah. But it's not till you're actually shown what they hid from you
Okay.
that is astonishing. Um, and I guess now with media the way it is, hopefully Africans on the continent will have that same awakening. I don't know from what they need to see or know,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I hope one day they see that too. That the colonized man is not the way of life, and that the life that they live is actually the richest and best life,
Mm,
and not this Western world life. This Western world life will kill you early.
mm. So when you go through town and you meet Blacks, Africans, wherever that they come from, whether they come from Africa itself or they come from the Caribbean, maybe they come from Europe. And you have maybe some kind of conversation with them, what makes you think that they have not come into, at least into contact with that kind of awareness that you had 7 years ago? What do you see?
I see a lot of people still brainwashed because the information that is given, it's one-sided.
It's
A
one-sided.
victor, yeah, a victor never tells the true story of the defeated. he tells the story of his victory. You understand?
Yes.
Just like even with the Bible, with King James version,
Hmm.
they wrote the version to fit what he wanted to fit.
Okay.
You understand what I mean by that? He changed things for the way that he wanted things to go. Because if not, why rewrite? Why write that book
Okay.
or that version of the book? So I've never heard of a victor tell how great his oppressor was, how valiantly that he fought against him, but still he lost or whatever. He's
Mm.
gonna write that story to bolster up himself to look good, and that his reasoning for that war was necessary. So when they indoctrinate or colonize a place, they are teaching everything great about them, not about who the people were before that. They don't tell that story. In America, you do not get an African American story. Period. They don't teach it. They teach Martin Luther King. They teach Malcolm X, and then they call them. I mean, well, Martin, they'll try to say he's like a peacemaker. Malcolm was an extremist. Marcus Garvey was the ideologist, and that's all you need to know.
And
And
so,
the books for them weren't easily accessible at one time. They are now, but I'm saying back in the day when I was a girl, it
yes,
wasn't so easy.
to come across that, I mean, that kind of information.
Yeah, because they don't. Their whole plan is not for us to unite. They do not want the diaspora to unite with the motherland, because we came from the belly of the beast. We were indoctrinated for centuries
Yes.
under their leadership, their rule, their way of thinking, their way of life. And if we take that back to the motherland, it'll be make Africa great again.
Okay.
I'm not trying to diminish and say Africa is not already great, but I'm saying the overall of it will be,
Mm.
we come with the knowledge that most Africans don't have about dealing
With
with this
the word.
society, or
Yes.
this mindset.
Yeah.
We've been indoctrinated and bred into this mindset. So we know this mindset, you know, very, very well. And they don't want us to take that over there, because that's the knowledge. Even if you take 100,000 people that never went to college,
Hmm.
the minds from America, and take them to Africa, the mindset that we were still given, taking it over to Africa, will be where we will be basically on the level of calling us with doctorates.
Hmm.
We would have the knowledge of everything that they do to undermine, conquer,
Mm.
survive, and to
Yeah.
thrive. We know all aspects of the way they do it. So we don't have to even be a college graduate to take that to Africa and teach. And they know that,
Mm. Okay.
because most other countries that come to America in 4 years or 8 years that they do over here, that's just a little piece of getting a little of that indoctrinate that we've been given since birth.
Yeah.
You
Let
know,
me. Okay. The Africans that you usually meet in America, what are some of the things that they express that sometimes make you, double think of their actions? What do you see?
okay, when we encounter Africans, like, I would start even when I was in school. I believe it was the Rwandans. No. It wasn't Rwandans. It was Somalians. Something had happened in Somalia back in like
Mm,
80, 80. I want to say like 84, 85, 84, 85. Something happened, and a flood of them came to my state, to California. And we had some of them come to schools.
mm,
And it was weird. They were very standoffish. And I mean, as children, you have no clue, really. We teased them because they didn't know about deodorant, and, body odors, and it can be 80 degrees outside, and we call that, like, for California, that was extremely hot, and they would still be wearing heavy clothes, and then they would smell, and we used to tease them. And then we had to be taught the differences in culture. They had to do a culture interaction at the school because I guess they got really bad
mm.
on the teasing. And they never really wanted to mingle with us, who they stuck together. um, I only that was my last year at that school for that, so I only had to deal with them for a few months. And then later in life, like when I got into my senior year of high school, I started meeting some more people. But their attitude towards us was very condescending. It's still the same attitude that they still have today, which is they would say, "Oh, you're lazy. Americans are lazy. Americans don't take advantage of, Black Americans. You don't take advantage of, the opportunities that they give you here in America and all of this." We used to just sit there and look at them like they were crazy, and we were like, "What are you even talking about?" Everybody went to school. Everybody did what they're supposed to be doing in life, having their fun, going to school or going to their little jobs. And they used to just have very condescending things to say, and they never really wanted to interact with us. And it wasn't until, I would say, probably 3 years ago, I had met a person, and he was from Nigeria. And I told him, I said, if I would have met you 10 years ago, I said, even 5 years ago, I said, I've never had this conversation with him. And he was like, why not? I said, because Africans hate Americans. Us as in turn make us not like y'all either. And y'all come here and y'all think y'all better. I said, which is funny. I said, because why would you come to America and then act like to the blacks in America that you're better than the blacks in America? But then when I see the videos of your country, honey, y'all ain't got nothing better to be talking about. And he was like, he was like, that's kind of crazy. He says, because what you have to understand is when they're coming from Africa to America, they're already being told not to interact with black people because you guys are bad because of what's being showed on the TV back at home. He says, so when the families are sending them out, he says, they tell you don't interact with them, you know, they're not even getting ahead, they're lazy. They give these all these stereotypes before they even leave the continent. And so when they get here and they're on the jobs or whatever, it's like interact with the white people, because the white people is how you're going to get ahead. It's not going to be by the blacks. So at the job site, they don't even want to deal with us. They want to go and hang out all with the Mzungus. And what they feel understand is the Mzungus are not going to get you ahead. They don't know the culture of accepting a black, but they do get accepted by the Mzungus because there's something new.
Yes.
It's not now, they don't look at them because of the color of their skin and treat them racist. they're a new novelty. That's a new toy to a white person. Ooh, I get to play with a real African, not a slave, but a real African. So
Okay.
they'll accept them in their circles for the most part.
Mm.
But
So, okay. So welcome, oracles. So you said that the Africans, when we come there, we are condescending. What do you think will inform that? You said that they told us that when you go, don't associate with them, and then you see some of the actions in their movies, the roles that are played by African Americans. You think those things inform that?
yeah,
I'm of the opinion that a lot of it's just the same wrong education. You know, it's the same
yeah,
because when the white man is here, he especially from the western part of Africa, maybe South Africa may be different, Zimbabwe, because they live with them. They saw the atrocities. It's not so much, you know, it just happened recently. But say Ghana, Nigeria, the kind of image that they left and the kind of, you know, they try to play God here. They try to be the savior. So when you are here, you think that you know, the white man is a savior. And something like racism, a lot of our people don't even understand it. A lot of our people will compare racism to tribalism. And they are very highly educated. They will come up with all kinds of arguments to compare the two because it's something that we don't know. But is it something about the African, something about a human being, indeed, is when a topic is not well studied, you will think that you know it, because then you can express something. Your brain will not shut down, even if when you don't know. You know, your brain will still let you feel like you know something, especially when you have gone to school. So the Africans will come and teach you that you're lazy. All these opportunities are here, and you still, because they don't know the structure, they don't know the system. They don't know how wrong they've been taught
no,
about
they
their
don't
own.
know the struggle.
Mhm. They don't know.
They don't know the struggle.
No, and they even think that we give excuses when we try to bring understanding to this. I mean, I have friends who will tell you that, listen, that thing happened long ago. Why are you still holding on to it? I said that wealth is generational if you don't know. And if you've not been taught about something, and they are the same people who come around to ask you all the reasons why Africans don't do well, why African Americans are not the ones, you know, are not the most wealthy, because we refuse to study. And if you go to South Africa, for instance, the same thing. You will come up with all the shallow reasons because it takes a lot of studies to really have proper understanding of why things are the way they are. So they will be condescending, and that is largely true because they are very much uninformed. And what if you don't know it, you don't know it. It doesn't matter what kind of education, because largely the
Oh,
education
I
they give.
got a question for you,
Yeah.
Kwabena.
Yes, sir. Yes, madam.
What did they teach you about us?
They don't teach you. They don't teach us about you in any way. Not the one that I went through. What I went through in school, they say a little about slavery and colonization, but and then maybe you hear Martin Luther King name will pop up. But a lot of the various things that you went through in America, in the Caribbean, we are not well taught in that. And you don't even have well-informed books. Maybe those who do history as a course, maybe it's there, I don't know. But I did science, and right from primary school to the university, not much. Not much. I didn't hear much about you. Not the kind of history that will make me have much respect for you and much appreciation of the problems that you have endured. Not even us as Africans, the things that we have to go through, not much is taught. I know there are some countries in Africa that have actually taken history out.
Wow.
I was told that some of them were even taken out from under the command of some of these international institutions that teach these type of subjects, don't teach these subjects. So majority of us, unless you are very much inquisitive, we will find these things very late in life, very late, and we can hold big positions. And sometimes you can see it. You see, you can see it in our suit and tie, in our discussion, in a lack of understanding on the issues. You can easily see it. When we so much want to praise the white man and do a lot of business with the white man and cut the other one, it shows that we are ignorant. We've not been taught. You know, and our love.
Yeah, because when people say, "Oh, that was so long ago. Just get over it, move on," and all of that, that's it's like we look at them and we're like, we are still living it. How can we just move on? How can you move on from something that hasn't stopped?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
The only difference is we're not in chains and they have to give us a paycheck, but they give us for the majority. Yes, we have wealthy people. I mean, that's anywhere around the world. You're going to have some of the wealthy people, even in from the oppressed side of it. Yes, Black Americans have some rich people, but the number of them compared to the whole, that number is very minute.
Yes, it's insignificant.
So overall, we are still basically working at slave wage because they pay us just enough to survive. And if we start making too much money, they just raise the prices. So therefore, you're still right back to just getting enough to survive. It used to be back in the day, and I'm just talking maybe 25 years ago.
Okay.
If you were making $10 to $12 an hour, you were very well paid, and you could live and buy pretty much anything and live pretty decent. Today, you can make $20 an hour and still be living in poverty.
Because cost of living is very high now.
Yeah, the inflation is, the wages are not keeping up with inflation. They can do inflation 2 or 3 times before they'll raise the wage. Now, amongst themselves, the Manzungus, among themselves now, they'll move up in wage to survive.
Wow. Somebody, Oracles, is saying that I majored in history, was never taught anything about the everyday struggle of African Americans, only the major figures like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And he majored in history from higher education.
Yeah.
So sometimes
and that's still going on.
That's still going on. Maybe maybe now our tool will be the internet. At least we are trying to find some things out, because I started to be aware of this kind of information after first degree. That is, I was over 20 years. Then I started to find out that the most important education that I should have had was denied me. The education of self, the education of my race, the education of that will answer the questions that I was asking, because you will see Africa and you'll be asking questions. Why is Africa this way? Why do we want to travel and go and live somewhere? Why do they promote, why do they brand us as poor and disease? That kind of information you will not find in history or in thermodynamics. Sorry, not in history, in thermodynamics or in engineering maths or in fluid mechanics. It's not there. Even when they're teaching you those things, it's still the white man that they are teaching you and how superior he is. You know, so by the time that you're through with this, you've been destroyed.
There was a video. that was passed around probably about a month or two ago,
Hmm.
um, of a professor
Yes.
speaking on why and how to keep Africa down. Now, they'll teach you that, but
Yes.
they won't teach you about any of the great kings, any of the great queens,
Yes.
or how they used to be very rich.
Hmm.
Not saying that that richness has been away, but it's been exploited now. But for the richness of the culture, they
Yes.
won't teach that the way that their parliament and things run is the what they took from learning in Africa, the structure
Mm-hmm.
of their government they took from Africa. They don't teach you that part, but they'll teach you all day long how to
Yes.
make you suffer, how to make Africa suffer.
Yes. They would. They
You
would.
know,
I watched that video. I went to search it, and I watched about 3 or 4 of his video. The professor was teaching economics. I think his name is Nicholas or something like that.
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
true. You go to a lot of countries in Africa, Ghana included. A lot of the multinationals are European or American. Those who are extracting the gold and the oil, they are led by them. And then they will put some African somewhere and train him. And then they will be hailing them and putting them on TV to say that this is a project, something, something. But they don't go close to the money. You know, they don't go close. They are not the one making decisions on the money. Yes, in Ghana, for instance, you'll find some other Ghanaians who are, fairly doing well in some of the industries. But I mean, growing up, multinationals were not Ghanaian. They were run by Europeans largely. So it's a problem that we all have to solve, and that's why a lot of the times, uh, even though things happened, the history we have to know them, and it's critical. If you don't know the history, you have nothing to follow. Because this kind of education that
Yes.
I wrote in my book, Perspective. I link the history to creativity, entrepreneurship, strength, confidence. And I said that you cannot create wealth if you are not taught your right history. Because if they take the right history from you, you will not be proud of yourself. And if you're doing business, because the problems are so many, you need a high level of confidence to keep trying. So the moment they
Yes.
give the kind of education that you're not proud of yourself and that you have to look up to a white Jesus, or you have to look at up to a white entrepreneur, like a lot of us will give examples of all the billionaires and ask them, look at the billionaire list. A lot of the times they are white male. Shouldn't something tell you that they are not the most intelligent? But then there is a history
Sorry.
that helped them. There's wealth that they have inherited. So you give us all the quotation from Bill Gates or all these guys and tell us that they are very successful. But when you go to the ground, the things that will help you to build this wealth, you will not have them. So you think that they are very intelligent and you are not, which is not so much true. So the history is everything. If you don't have it, all the other education is useless. It's
Well, the
useless.
craziest part is their history is stolen history.
Okay, the history is stolen.
I mean, because like if you were to ask, at least with I know American uh, professionals that
Yes.
are wealthy, I'm saying the corporate owners and things, they read books like The Art of War.
Oh, yes.
It's not
Yeah.
even their culture, but they're going to someone else's history that was a conqueror and leader.
And the Chinese book, isn't it?
Learn.
Yes.
It's funny that when you talk about studying culture, um, it's funny that there's only one ology in when you're talking about countries or civilizations, is Egyptology. You have
Mm-hmm.
no other race of people or even any other class of people that they have dedicated an entire study like Egyptology. you don't hear about Israeltology. You don't hear about UKtology. You don't hear none of that. Only Africa. They only study the hell out of Africa.
Mm.
And I can only imagine what they have stolen out of them pyramids, out of those tombs, out of the leaders and kings and queens' minds and the storytellers.
Do you know?
You know.
Do you know how many Africans who can't relate with what happens in Egypt? Because the modern day Egypt is occupied largely by the Arabs. You know, so when you see the modern day Egypt, you will think that this is what Egypt has always been. So most of us from the West, we don't think that Egypt is us. You know, you will not think that Israel, because now they call it Middle East. So they have taken over. They say that Israel is another area. So this kind of information, we don't have it. And that's why we can easily be controlled. Because somebody said that we can easily control a people who don't know their history. You know, and I think that the moment you meet somebody who is learning, trying to pick a little from the history, there are so other many areas that we can easily connect, because then that settles the errors in our head. You know, so somebody is saying that I was lucky in Africa that I got to learn about Booker T. Washington as a teenager in Africa. So somebody got to know Booker T. Washington, and somebody also said
it's funny on that topic there. It's funny because that's the school that my daughter goes to is Booker T. Washington.
He established that school, or they have named it after him?
No. They just named it after him.
Yes, he was a great man.
And well, because and the funny part is, here in America, they don't teach you about Booker T.
You don't?
No. I live 5 minutes from his grave.
Wow.
The school that he started is 5 minutes from my house.
What is the name of that school?
Tuskegee University.
Yes.
Well, now it's Tuskegee. Well, now I call it Tuskegee University. It used to be Tuskegee Institute.
Okay. Somebody also says, I didn't learn anything about. I didn't learn about any of our brothers in the US until I traveled. So that is what happens to a lot of us. We don't know anything because we don't even get to you until we travel. There are a lot of us who will not meet somebody from Namibia or Botswana or South Africa until we travel to, say, England, or we travel to America. There are majority of. No, that's true. I mean, the first time somebody from Botswana, for instance, is when I was outside the continent, or somebody from, let's say, maybe Sudan, you know, for Nigeria, because we are in the same neighborhood, you know. So what is it? Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria. We are in the same area, so we meet. But if you go to the east or you go to the south, a lot of the times we don't meet on the continent, we meet. That's how much ignorant we are of ourselves. You know, so if the media, which is largely controlled by the West, is showing negatives, that's what we get to learn. So we think that Namibia is, you know, because that's what they show.
In your own country.
In our own Africa, yes. So say somebody in South Africa would think that West Africa is backward, is poor, because they watch BBC or they watch CNN. And BBC or CNN will not show anything good about us. And they have never.
In actuality, America does the same thing. If you live, let's say, in the Midwest or in the South, they will show all of bad things Black people do in let's say, the West Coast.
That's right.
Yeah, on the West Coast. So they'll say, like, California is so bad, even though we have Hollywood. you know, but there'll be, oh, the violence in Los Angeles, you know, the gang violence. I mean, yes, it's there, but they would show that across the entire country. And or what goes on bad in New York from all of the immigrants that are in New York City and all of that. They'll show that and it discourages people to go to those places. So
Sometimes
unless you're from there, go ahead.
Sometimes when you want to travel and you watch all their movies, you think you'll be shot in the street.
Well, you would, but you could be that anywhere. That can happen anywhere in the world.
Yes, but they push it so much that in your mind you think, when I'll be shot. Then somebody has also written, then at college I learned the very soft side of African or of American culture, but I learned more by interacting with our African American family. So I think once there is an interaction, there will be some bit of an understanding. And maybe that's because, I mean, let's face it, 10 years ago, we will not be talking.
No. Nope.
We will not be talking. So I will still be keeping my misinformation about you and what you had to endure. And you also be keeping the same information about us and what we had to go through.
And until the internet is more affordable in Africa, that more people would be able to have access.
It's not affordable. So a lot of our people are not on the internet as a tool to learn.
Right. Right. And until that happens, they're going to be deceived and naive. And I just want to give a shout out. Hi, my little sister, African Millennial. I didn't even notice that was you on the first time you posted that up. But hey, sis. And until that happens, it's like, and even with on the internet, when you see all of this internet drama between the diaspora and the continental African, I have to keep in mind, and a friend of mine, you know, he keeps reminding me. He says, just keep in mind, these are just these little bitty people, and it's just a handful of these people that are against or talk bad about us. That these people are just internet, basically what we say in America, you're just an internet thug. You know, the hardest part is that the Mzungu has done a very good job at what he taught us to divide us and to try to keep us divided. So I do thank God for the internet, because just like African Millennial was saying, we were in it's what her words are in reverse. I didn't know truly about Africa or Africans until basically really the internet has united me with people that I was able to form a network, even meeting you for that matter. You know?
Yes.
And I thank God for that, because you teach me and give me so much a different perspective and outlook upon the African mindset of like doing business. And you are such a very knowledgeable man upon that. And the other networks that of people that I have been able to garner over time, and that's really only been just since the sickness has been around. That's been flowing. That I've been able to actually sit down and find people, network, be interactive in these chats, and to learn so much. I've learned so much this past year. In 2020, I've learned more in 2020 than I have in the whole 50 years I've been on this earth.
Wow.
You know,
That's true.
Because
that's true.
Even Yeah, but I mean, because now we can, just like you were saying, now we can talk. I can talk actually. I
Yes.
don't just
Yes.
have to read. I can talk and interact and learn from
Yes.
actual humans, not just books.
That's
So
right.
yes, it is to learn of the history. Dr. Clark said, Dr. John Henry Clark said, if you don't
Mm.
know your past, there's no way you can know your future.
Future. Yeah.
Same lines of what you were saying.
Yes.
And it's all good and lovely to learn that past.
Mm.
It's a lovely thing. But
Yes.
when you're living in the here and now,
Hmm.
it's the here and now that also matters just as much as the past.
Yes.
Because I can read all books I want to. It's like I can
Mm.
research over the internet all I want to about Africa. But it is not until I touch that ground that
Okay.
I truly understand and can put things in real perspective. It was
Yeah.
just like when I used to do, when I before I started traveling the Caribbean. Yeah, I used
Hmm.
to hear all of the music. I used to hear all of the stories about, the corruption and the hard living and all of that.
Yeah.
And I could visualize it in my head, kind of, of what they'd be saying. And it was like when Bob Marley used to sing all his songs and tell the stories, because songs were stories, weren't just songs, they were stories of life.
Mm.
And it wasn't until the first day that I stepped on Jamaican soil
Mm.
that when it all came to an understanding. And it wasn't nowhere near what I was envisioning or even what I had learned before going there.
So when you
And
went, feeling was different, isn't it? It's so different.
yeah, because everything was in face. You hear about poverty, but then when it slaps you in the face,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
and it was like, even when I went over, because with California next door to Mexico, and
Hmm.
Mexico is another poverty country.
Mm.
And so even when I went over there, it was like, wow, these people are actually living like this. But the type of person that I am, I grew up in a multicultural city,
Mm.
in a state that's multicultural. So it was like I kind of understood and heard the horror stories of where people came from, and being so close to Mexico, you hear from the Mexicans, what was going on. But it wasn't until I first stepped over that border and I was like, where am I? And to think not even 10 minutes away from that is a totally different world. Because when you step into Tijuana, and California is just right next door. I mean, in the heart of Tijuana is only 10 minutes from the
Mm.
border. It's like it. I might as well flew to the other side of the world. And the squalor and the things that the way that people were living, the begging and all of that goes on there in that city, it was like wow. But as a black person to actually go to a country that is predominantly black, and yeah, you can hear the songs from Bob and Peter and all of them. And then when I stepped onto the ground, and then in my first 24 hours inside of the country, I was a Bob Marley song. I was in a roadblock. I was extorted, and I was put under curfew. All less than 24 hours of me arriving at country. And it was like, oh, this is what Bob was talking about.
Mm.
And it was like those things don't happen here. Our police kill you, but they don't stop you just to take money from you.
Mm.
They don't put up barricades, they don't put you under curfew just so they can catch a robber or a thief or a murderer or whatever. They just, we have our atrocities, but their atrocities are a bit different, and it's
Yes.
their government that is doing it. And so it's like, wow, and it wasn't until I actually touched the soil. So for us in America or any diaspora, we can say, think, and whatever, but it's not until you're actually there that it
Yes.
really hits you in the face of understanding what truly Africa is going to be about
Yes.
or is about.
So,
And
so
for some people,
when you were growing up, Did you hear that the Africans don't like you? They don't want you to come. If you go to Africa, they will not welcome you. Did you hear things like that?
Not so much as that they didn't want us to come. It was that they didn't like us. They always talked down on us. They always wouldn't like to interact. And that same friend, that Nigerian friend of mine that was telling me, you know, they were already taught that before they left the country, that he says, well, you have to also understand that they're leaving the continent to go to a whole nother continent. Some may have family and friends. Some majority of them will have some type of contact. But there's also that other them that are just coming there on their own, and they haven't made those contacts yet. And if we seem standoffish or whatever, or if they seem standoffish, he says, just put in your mindset that they're in a country where they know nobody, they don't know the culture, they don't know their way, and they're in the big old America. So he was like, yeah, they're going to be standoffish. And he says, and then you couple that with what they've been told about black people, that they'll shoot you, they'll rob you, you know, the things that they see in the movies. He says, so you have a tendency not to want to really interact with you. He says, and so you just have to understand that and push through it.
But do you think that has ever come to you, or has anybody ever told you that if you come to, let's say, Ghana, they will not welcome you, they will not want to see you? Have you ever been told that?
It wasn't until lately. I mean, it wasn't so much about us coming to Africa. That's not a conversation here a lot in America. That's not something that people talk about. People don't talk about going to Africa. Even like when I talk to my youngest daughter, my older kids are fine. They don't care about going over at least to visit, to initially to at least visit. Many of them would move to Africa. That, you know, they're not ready for that one just yet. But definitely will all want to visit. My youngest was like, I'm like, we need to go and get your passport. For what? And I'm like, you know, just in case, you know, and if we want to run to Africa, we can run. Well, why would I want to go to Africa? I was like, well, why would you want to stay here? And she was like, but mommy, why would I want to go to Africa? I said, Africa is not a bad place. She said, I didn't say it was bad. But why would I want to go to a dirt country?
Yes.
I said, a dirt country? And so then I knew then that I know I slacked on her more than I did the older ones, the other three.
Okay.
But for her imagery, for some reason, and I don't even know where she even has that image coming from, that the whole country is just a dirt country, that is a bad place to go. You know, so I've had to start trying to show her different videos. I give her Water Maya because she's not ready for repats videos. Because if I show her just repats videos, they don't show, let's say, they don't show truly the beauty of it. They're showing the people that want to repat the reality of it when you're trying, and those are the people that have the mindset already to repat. But when you're trying to sway somebody over to thinking on that mindset, you got to go Water Maya.
That's true.
That shows nothing but beauty. You know, that just,
I saw Maya's videos on Nigeria. Nigeria is just 30 minutes in the air. You're almost in Nigeria, so or maybe an hour. But the kind of videos that you showed on Nigeria will blow your mind. The kind of
I've seen them.
He showed on Gambia, on Senegal, on Kenya, on Ethiopia.
He's been everywhere with them.
Yes.
He's been everywhere with them. That's
Because,
as far as traveling with to Africa.
yes,
Maya is my number one influencer with that
it's true.
because I started on YouTube. I started with Maya,
Mm.
and from Maya led me to a couple of other ones, and then from them I was able to start meeting others and working within that network. But I started out with Ori, and
Yes.
so for her, I have to start showing her that part of it
No,
and
it's true. I have
getting
forwarded
her on that mindset.
I have forwarded a lot of his videos to Ghanaians who live outside the continent, who are so negative
Hmm.
and don't see anything good here. Some of them are so quick to call you and tell you all the bad things that they see on the news, but they hardly hear and see the pictures uh, of the good things that are happening.
Well, see, that's another thing I have a problem with diaspora and Africans
Yes.
is they don't be truthful to their
Mm-hmm.
own people back home.
Mm.
They don't share the atrocities that they are actually. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
it's all of them because you have
Mm.
some of them that come here and they are doing very well
Mm.
in their positions and things at work and making
Mm.
decent money. But I'm gonna say that is a very small percentage.
Yes, it is.
It's just like our
Very small.
percentage of rich black people. It's a
Mhm.
small percentage of the Africans and the African Americans that are living very middle class or high middle class, because they're not coming here and becoming rich. They're becoming middle class, and that's shrinking as well because they want in this country. Basically, it's going to be the haves and the have-nots. It's not going
Mm.
to be a middle class in a
Middle,
community.
the middle is a creation. It's very beautiful, like a cemetery, until you start to dig, and you see all the, you see all the
Mhm.
bones being laid. It's a creation. It's a
But
facade.
see, but when they go back home and all of goody stuff, they romanticize their
Yes,
life and they tell their lives and hype up more
yes,
than what they are because it's not like anybody can check that position. They can be a janitor. They're going to tell you that they're running some facility.
they,
Yeah, you're running
it,
a
it,
facility.
they,
You're the director of cleaning
they learn
it.
they learn the packaging on CNN. It's still branding. It's still packaging. It's propaganda. They have to keep with that status because, for instance, if he's my mate and he believes that he has a better shot at life if he travels, then when he comes back, he must keep that status. For me to believe that.
Why?
Why? Because he made a decision to move, and therefore, even if that decision has not worked out well, to a lot of them, it's very difficult for them to say that, listen, it's that tough. They would rather want to keep the same image so that at least it will seem that the decision that they made was the right one.
It's
So on,
funny you say that because my Nigerian friend had
yes,
told me the gossip, like in the village, the
yes,
gossip. If they live off of gossip and everything. So he says they would fight over a biscuit. What they call in the UK a cracker is they call it a biscuit over there. It would
mm,
be. He says, I don't care if it was a biscuit or a bottle of water. If that bottle of water came from America and that
mm,
person got a bottle of water out of South Africa, they're gonna
mm.
fight on whose bottle of water or whose
It's,
cracker is better. And he says, and
yes,
that can last for months until the next something comes along. That would be the debate. And I'm like, why? And like, well, because it came from America. I said, so what? The
yes,
emphasis and the problem with that, even when I watch and even
mhm,
though he used to argue that he didn't like Nollywood movies, And I says, well, for me being an African American, it shines a little light of understanding the culture. I said, I
Yes.
know that it's for TV. I says, but even in our TV, there is some truth
In that.
to what they're showing. I says, and
Okay.
when you see certain things portrayed over and over, and it doesn't matter if it's different actors, different companies, or different movies or whatever, I says, so it means that kind of truth exists in somebody's country. That
Mm.
truth is there. And he says, yeah. And I says, so why is it shameful? The way that they put shame on people that go to another country and it doesn't work out and they have to come back home. Why are they met with shame that you must be a true failure because you couldn't go to America and become a Donald Trump?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand that way of thinking.
Because how can you go to heaven and fail?
Hmm?
How can you go to heaven and fail? Because for the white man's image that he has created, until you are taught the right ones, is that he is God. And where he lives is heaven. So how can you go through all get there and you fail? It's impossible. That's why you can see the program or the conditioning run on us. That's why we go through the Sahara Desert to get to Italy. And the Italians themselves are struggling, but we would want to get there. We go to Spain, and the Spanish economy is struggling, but our people will still want to go. You go to Greece, and people are still struggling, but they would want to go because for them, the white man represents the standard, So it's the conditioning. It's the
Well,
TV.
now they're conditioning Africans, from my understanding. The new conditioning in Africa is for the farmers to abandon their farms. And I don't see why people don't see that that's stupidity, especially when all of these other countries are now trying to come there to become farms. And I pray, I truly do pray that the word gets to these people that own farms and were farmers not to stop, because it may not have been what was good for them in the past few years or whatever. But the future of farming in Africa, no matter what part, is
What do you
the
see?
new gold.
What do you say about the future? What is it that you're seeing?
About on what aspect?
As
For
as the
Africa?
no, the farming. You just talk about the future of farming in Africa.
Well, because America has farmland.
Okay.
Our soil is trash.
Okay.
They've pesticided and over farmed it so badly and nobody in America strives to be a farmer. That's a generational thing. Nobody goes to school to become a farmer. And we don't have space for it, and the space of where farming is done, like I said, the soils it's done. You can't go to other little country. You can't go to China, even though we get everything out of China. China doesn't have farmland either. Their farms are trash, and they don't have the space. Where else can you go? You can't run to Brazil or Mexico. They don't have enough to feed America and the UK and China. They don't have enough land space. So what's left? The continent where all the other continents can fit into that one continent that is totally not being used for that, because Africa has become an import king. So there is great fertile land in Africa in abundance that is not been pesticided up and all these chemicals and
Mhm.
overfarmed and all of that. Africa has an abundance of that,
Yes.
many hectares of it.
Yes.
And
Thousands
so,
of arable lands. Yeah.
so with all of these countries growing, where are they going to get the food from? In this wasteful country, it's illegal. Okay, we have shops, restaurants that you go to that are all you can. You pay like 11, 12, sometimes $20 or below. Between $10 to $20 you pay. You go in, you eat all you can eat, and you go home. The end of the night, all of that food that was left over, it's illegal for them to let homeless people get that food. They just throw it away.
Yes.
That's business after business after business after business. Every food industry business cannot feed the homeless from their leftovers at the end of the night, which is garbage cans fulls, you know? So we
Mm.
waste a lot.
Mm.
And in that waste, where are those products coming from?
Okay.
So to keep up that lifestyle, they're gonna need Africa. Why do you think they're trying so hard to get into Africa? It's not even about the gold and the diamonds anymore. It's not even about that because they've already stockpiled diamonds. They don't even need to dig for diamonds no more.
So now it
Gold,
comes to the
gold, huh?
now it comes to the food, isn't it? It comes to food.
You have to eat to live. I don't care if it's plant based. I don't care if you're a meat eater.
Hmm.
Either which way you go, you gotta eat.
Yes.
I don't care if you're what do they call pescatarian or whatever, or you only eat fish. I don't care if
Mm.
you're the vegan and you only eat raw fruit. I don't care if you're the vegetarian. I don't care if you're the carnivore. You still gotta eat. So where is that coming from?
Okay.
And it's gonna be Africa.
Yep. Okay. Somebody
So
saying, read how Europe and develop Africa. What are some of the books that you read on Africa?
I just started getting into reading the books about Africa, to be honest. Um, but I'm into Chancellor Williams right now.
Mm.
Um, I like the teachings of Dr. Hendrik Clark. He
Okay.
teaches on both. He teaches on a whole lot of it. Like with Dr. Henry Clark, that's when I found out about how Africa. I mean, everybody wants to just make it seem like Africa was only enslaved by the Mzungu. No, we were enslaved by a whole lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the Portuguese, the
Yes.
Spanish, and the Mzungu,
Arab.
we were
The
also
Arab.
enslaved by the Arabs first.
Yes. The Arabs were here,
You
and
know,
we
and
did a lot of trading, and then
people,
we changed.
yeah, and that's like even in America, it's like when people have, let's say, the Mzungu blood in them, they disregard that. Oh, that's from masses robbing, raping, blah, 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 blah. But then when you say, oh, you got good hair, oh, that's the Indian in me, and they are so proud saying that Indian. But what they fail to realize, the reason so many Black Americans have Native American Indian in them is because they were slaves of the Native American. The Mzungu would do trade, and sometimes that trade was trading the slaves.
Okay.
But we'll claim that like with a badge of honor. It's like there's so it's eye opening. Knowledge is power, especially about your history.
That's right.
To me, knowledge is not power when you're talking about fundamental
Mm.
knowledge of going to the Mzungu's colleges and getting their knowledge, because their knowledge on that is only to keep you at a level of still working for them. They don't teach you how to create a business or to have the critical thinking of creating and solving problems. They
No.
teach you to to still work for them just at a higher level. You paid enough money to me now. We could put you at a little higher level, but you're never going to be a CEO of it. You're never going to be a CFO. You know.
If you no, you never go. You are not going to handle their finances. If you trace the education history of Ghana, for instance, when we had our own way of transferring, knowledge, it was more of families training on trade, or the women being trained by their mothers, fathers being trained by what the fathers do. That's the kind of education, at least for the last, let's say, 300 years before they came to do whatever they did. Then, when they came, they said that they wanted to give they tried several times to come. They couldn't come. They couldn't come. The 1600s were not the time that they came here. They tried, but later they had to bring in the religion, and the religion then broke our people. And then after the religion, they came in to cause atrocities. But when they came, the kind of education that they had to do was to teach our people how to, read the so-called Bible. That's the fundamentals of how they brought the so-called education. And then after a while, even that, the Ashantis, they didn't want it. So up until the 1900s, that they allow some of their children to be taught by them, at least in Ghana. And those were just clerical kind of, office kind of education, Bible reading kind of, English speaking kind of education. They never designed an education where you will have the ability to turn the raw materials into a finished product for your use. So our universities, the fundamentals of our education was not built on critical thinking. It was not.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember with that same Nigerian friend. He taught me a lot about the concept. He taught me a lot about African people. So I'm so grateful to him about that. And the thing, there was a letter, I guess you can call it. I don't remember if it was linking with Mandela or just along the lines of like what Mandela went through. It was a guy that, and it was a few of them that went to prison. I think I want to say it was 3 of them that went to prison.
Mandela and
but I don't think it was actually Mandela and his people. I think it was a whole nother set. I'm not sure. It may have been, but the story went. He told the jailer that they were supposed to be on death row. They were supposed to have been for their crime. And he says that he was going to fight that and he was going to beat that. And, he always maintained telling the jailer that he was going to beat that. And eventually, 2 of them died and he survived and he got out. And he had wrote to the jailer man and he told him, I told you, boasting about he beat the system and he won. That he won and he got out. And he says, so the jailer man wrote him back and he says, how do you feel that you won? He says, with your country, he says, you may have won your freedom, but now what can you do? Because when we leave and we taught you how to farm, we taught you how to do this and we taught you how to do that. He says, we taught you to fertilize your plants, but we didn't teach you the ratio of the fertilizer. So, and he went down a whole list of things of that nature. And he says, so how did you win? And that's when you look at decolonization, That is why a lot of the countries were able to build up, because yes, you may have worked for the government, but did the government teach you how to set it up for it to be ran the way that it was? Yes, we taught you how to create more crops and bigger yields from your crops. Did we teach you the science behind doing that? No, we taught you just how to get out there and plow a certain way, fertilize at a certain time, and how much, to throw out there. But we didn't teach you how to make that fertilizer. You think it's one thing, but you don't know that we also added this. You thought it was just all cow manure, but we didn't tell you we threw in this extra for it to work even better than just pure cow manure.
So
And so when we
they were
leave,
intentional to take out the technical education. So they were intentional not to make sure that the technical education was not widespread.
yes, and that is still the answer for today. And I don't care where you live. It's just about Africa. Making sure that Africa doesn't get that information. They also make sure that even in the States we don't get that information.
Even up to date.
They teach you. Yes, they'll teach you how to go and do accounting.
Yes.
They'll teach you how to close on a deal.
Yes.
But do they teach you how to start that firm to have to get deals for?
Okay.
No, they don't teach you that.
Oh, they don't. If you look around now, a lot of experts, consultants, a lot of the people who talk on TV, they give them scholarship to go to Germany to go and study social development. Courses that will not give you the expertise to build anything on your own. So they become consultants on that you don't need. Things that can create and deal with, create opportunities for the very things that we need, So if you look at the scholarships that they give, you look at the courses, you see that this guy will go and do this PhD and come back and he's useless.
He's still stupid.
See,
that's what we say. You're book smart, but you're not street smart.
No, because they will make sure that you're intelligent. Instead of them to pay a consultant to do that research for them, they will give you, scholarship. And the scholarship will be 100th of what they would have paid a consultant to do that research. And then you use 4 years of your life to go and read a course that they will not need and that you will not need anyway. And we have thousands of them all over, Africa. And eventually
millions.
They end up
millions.
Eventually they end up being
all over the world.
Yeah. Eventually they end up being big men in government. So what can we say?
Some of them. And a lot of them end up being your taxi driver.
Okay. So somebody's also said that the divide between African Americans and continental Africans is by design.
Yes.
Yes.
Most definitely.
It's by design.
And I'm reading where you got up with Oracle. She's saying Booker T had a great plan, and he did. So did Gaddafi. But for Booker T, he was not allowed to create that. And as for Gaddafi, since he had the means, you see, Booker T didn't have the means.
Okay.
Gaddafi did.
Yes.
And when you have the means, they have to take you out.
Yes, they took him out.
When you don't have the means, they just let you. They just keep letting you spread your thoughts to people.
You make noise. The boss was in Ghana. He actually became a Ghanaian before he died. Yes. I read a little about him.
He was a very wise man as well.
Yes.
There was a whole slew of them. Booker T. Washington, W.D. Du Bois. There was, you had George Washington Carver. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, you know. But they weren't going to let those people succeed no more than the success that they have had. And their greatest success was to document their their knowledge.
Yes.
That was their greatest success, their documentation of their knowledge. Because other than that, they were just been people that were smart, and that was pretty much it.
And they will not leave much.
Over here they were not going to get recognized for that. They wouldn't. And that was just for their era. I mean, it still gives us a glance, you know, for people today, it's still the window back into history. But for the day and age of where they came from, it was a very small few of them that even were able to rise up out of that.
Right.
You know,
so
what's his name? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
No, I was trying to think of the James Baldwin is another very good one. He ended up disliking America, so he moved to France, like many of them did. And you know, and you had many of them that left and went to Europe. And then you had many of the great scholar ones, they went to Ghana.
Okay. Well, when I was growing up, we never had any thinking that we didn't like African Americans. No, it was what, if you ever saw any, you were so happy. That was how we were brought up. For us to see Jamaicans, especially the Rastafarians, you never felt like they were foreigners. Never. It was joyous to see them and to just say hi to them. We were not conditioned to hate. Never. That is what I know. As a matter of fact, when I hear,
for us is twofold. I mean, it's a great thing to be welcomed back so lovingly, and then the burden of the expectation, is hard.
Okay, so explain what is the burden of expectation?
To a degree, like just like when you have people that go abroad and then they come back home, they have that expectation that you like you say, you just came from heaven, so you should be drinking with milk and honey and gold out your pockets. You know, and
but you see that
even
one,
in the other chats,
but that
and then
one,
it's like
but that one usually, you know, if you look at the social structure, a lot of the time is the very bottom, maybe the 10% down, who will be looking so much up to somebody who has come from abroad. The people who are very much engaged hardly will expect anything from anyone who has traveled to come. If, for instance, if my friends from anywhere come to Ghana and I meet them and we discuss, we talk, I'm not expecting anything from them. You know, but if I didn't have anything to do, I would probably ask them something. So usually it's more of maybe the status, the state of the person that they meet, you know, because if I move from Accra to my hometown, your friends, they meet you, they ask you money. You know, that's I mean, ask you, what are you living? Now give me something to keep. If you don't give them, that is okay, but they will ask you. Now, those who are okay, those who are doing something, who have their business or their jobs, they don't ask you anything. They're just happy to see you. That's all. You know, so the more you get into a community where most of the people are not doing much as to livelihood and what they depend on, then you get to meet a lot of these askings. But if they if they're occupied largely, it's just talking and things like that. So going forward, what would you recommend? So how do we see ourselves?
For African Americans, I would suggest, and this is only based because I haven't been to the continent like I told you before. But like with me, I used to say, if you lived in the South, it can prepare you for the Caribbean. If you live in the Caribbean, it can prepare you for living on the continent.
Okay.
So I take because I used to stay half a year every year in Jamaica and float around in the Caribbean, but primarily I used to visit Jamaica the most. So Jamaica, to me, when people say prepare yourself, African Americans cannot prepare themselves like that for Africa unless they already have a very, very open mind already. That is a mindset that they already have, period. For the average African American to just go to the continent and be like nothing really is shocking them too much culturally is going to be very difficult. I feel that I'm blessed with being able, because a lot of African Americans don't travel. If they do travel, they travel within the U.S.
Okay.
Yes, people travel, but the average African American, they're not taught to leave the U.S. In recent years, I'd probably say probably in the past 10, 20 years, African Americans have started actually leaving the continent a lot more than in numbers than what they used to be, and our numbers are still small. When they talk about leaving the country, they say they go to Mexico, they go to Jamaica, they go to the Bahamas. But as in traveling the world, like going to, I mean, people are discouraging African Americans going to like Europe and all of that. I mean, and it's understandable of the mindset of that.
But of course, the embassy even put Africa always under red. A lot of African countries they put, and you have to have a lot of barriers to cross for you to even decide to travel. A lot of
not if you got an American passport, which some people are hearing them even talking about. Oh, when they get to Africa, they want to become citizens, and and then they'll give up their American passport. I'm not giving up my American passport for nobody. I'm just so sorry. It's not gonna happen because sad to say, the whole stories I hear for even continental Africans to travel within Africa.
Yes.
Y'all catch hell all having your own country's passport. But my passport can take me anywhere in the world I want to go with very little stipulations. We just have to get visas.
Yes.
And in most countries, you don't even need a visa because this is an American passport. We can go anywhere. I mean, I don't know nowhere we can't go.
Yes, but most
I
countries
really don't
allow dual citizenship. But I think you have sacrificed so much to just say that I don't want America. I think the sacrifice is too high for them to just take America. No, I think you have the right.
Well, because but this is the other problem. And it's a dual sword with that. Me and my friend, we talk about this all the time. I'm African American.
Yes.
First part of that is African. Second part is American. That is who I am.
Yep.
Why do I have to deny that part of me?
No.
Which I've lived my entire life.
Yes. Yep.
Just because I want to go and move back to Africa and reconnect with the motherland and learn the culture of the motherland. They act as if African Americans don't have a culture. We don't have a home. Yeah, we do. Even if you chop off Africa, if Africa didn't even exist anymore, I still have a home. It just was a wicked place for me to call home It's just like being born into a crazy family and family's very dysfunctional. It's still your family. America, as bad as it is, and all of the atrocities that they do to my people, this is still my home.
Mm-hmm.
When people want to talk about ancestors, I mean, yeah, there's those ancestors from over 400 years ago, but I got my ancestors from the 1800s living that are just a 2.5 hour drive from me,
Yeah.
because my family has a cemetery. We own our
Yeah.
own cemetery. So my ancestors of recent years, at least the 1800s, I can go to their grave. They're here,
Yep.
So it's like, why, and I hear this a lot in a lot of YouTube
Mm-hmm.
chats and lives and things, that oh no, you got to be A1. And I'm like, no, I'm A1 and B1.
What did you say? You have to
I'm both.
be born.
I don't understand that concept of we have to leave. Like, then they say, oh, you have to leave that African American mindset. Yeah, there's some wickedness, but see, that's the greatness of what we can bring to that country, is that African American mindset, because the games that your government is playing is the American mindset, which has instilled into the African American. So the
Which
mindset of who's
which
robbing you,
one?
we already
Which
learned
one?
that mindset.
Which one
Hmm?
is that? Which one is that
What?
one?
Of business.
Okay.
We know
No.
when those deals are coming in, they're shoddy, and there should be no way in hell that deal should be done as for a country, and what they're exporting and importing. We would already know that is a sucker deal. We would know with that fine print that they put on there and the language they use. We already know that language. They use that language over in Africa to confuse those people, and
Do
they
you,
don't have a
do
clue
you,
to what happened in
do
the
you
end.
think? Do you think that they don't know, or they are just greedy?
Both.
Because
I think both.
some of these guys who signed these things were schooled in Harvard and Yale. Most of them.
Mm-hmm. Just because you went to Harvard and Yale doesn't mean
Yeah.
that you're smart.
No, but at
That
least they
just
saw
means
them.
you can read a book and regurgitate what they tell you to regurgitate about. No, that doesn't mean that you're smart. George
Yeah.
Bush went to damn one of them. So what did he do? I think he went to Harvard. Do
Okay.
you think George W. Bush was smart?
I don't know.
That was one of the dumbest presidents. His daddy got an extra thing in his daddy got an extra few years. Because he sure the hell didn't run our country. His
I
own wife, on the video,
no,
they told his wife said,
no,
listen,
he's
hold on, listen to what his wife said. He
no,
tried to milk a horse, a
no.
male horse. He tried to milk a
He,
horse.
he is your president. You can say what you want. He's not my president. I can say much.
But he went to an Ivy League school. But see, you have to remember, just as in Africa, that corruption is here as well. If you have enough money, you don't have to be smart to go to schools. You just have to have the money to be able to pay.
Okay. No, I was saying that because you said that the African American bring this, which is true. They bring the mindset that if the government is signing some deals that are not right, they will see. And I'm saying that yes, but some of them were actually schooled. We have people who were even sent to
Mm-hmm,
America very young, and they have lived in the culture,
mm-hmm.
uh, have had all these kind of degrees. They become government officials and they misbehave. So I'm saying that we have had some of them.
How many of those, though? How many of those do you actually have?
Okay. For instance, the current president in Ghana is he had his primary education in England, went
Uh-huh.
through up to the secondary school. Something. He came to university in Ghana and went back.
Okay, but
Uh,
in England, I'm gonna stop you right there. In England,
Yes.
Racism is done on the low.
But it's still very dangerous.
There are atrocities of racism and making black people struggle is nothing in comparison to America.
Okay. It's not because it's not because the British are able to, package it as if they were different and they are nice. But they're as evil.
It's their culture. It's a culture thing. Their culture is not to be so brash.
Yes, but they are as dangerous as any other group. I don't know the history there. But
they're worse.
I'm sure they are dangerous as any other group because they don't put it out. In England, almost every time there's somebody knife who is black. Young people, they knife them, they kill them. I don't know. You always hear stories, all kind of stories. And
but I also know blacks in the UK, around London, and even some of the outer cities and in Birmingham and all. They know that their racism exists. I would say 8 out of the 10 that I would ask would say they've never seen it.
It's not because
now you talk about just going for them, like my play daughter, wherever she lives in England. Not far from.
They have never seen it. But it's obvious. How many blacks have been Prime Minister of England?
I don't know. I don't even keep up with England's government.
If you say you don't know it,
my government is enough headache.
No, I mean, if you deny it, no problem. But go to where power is, go to where money is. That's where it plays. Who are wealthy in those countries? Who hold the power? That's where racism plays.
Well, it's always gonna be the Mzungu. They're not gonna let nobody else hold power over their countries.
Okay, so if I'm a human being and I'm born here and I'm British and I cannot be a president, why are you saying that there's no racism there? You just don't know it. You're just denying them.
No. That's not no. What I'm saying is,
no, I'm talking of whoever.
They have the racism in the UK, but it's on a different level. That they're the police. They may profile and a lot more lately. But they blame it on the influx of immigrants that they keep letting in themselves, but they blame it on the immigrants, but you keep letting all these immigrants in. But if you were to go to London, and walk around with the white people or get pulled over by the police over there or whatever, I would say I have a 98% more chance of living after being stopped by the police in the UK than being stopped by the police in the US.
Okay.
When you go to places here, some places don't have a problem calling you out of your name, depending on where you are. Like in the South, you still would get people. They may not call you straight out the N-word, but they'll still be flying their flag, so you already know you're not welcome here in this town, because at the entrance of that city, they may still have the Confederate flag flying. You already know what to expect. That means you don't stop there. You better pray you don't break down at night. You already know what can happen to you. You can come up missing.
So the white man system in America is so far more dangerous than the one in England. Is that what you're saying?
Do you know about it?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
No, I'm asking you seriously. Do you know about the atrocities of the system here against Black people?
I know. I've read few, but I don't appreciate the. I mean, you were born into it. You have lived in it.
Yes, but for you to even have the knowledge, though, for you to even know about it in Africa, lets you know how bad it is.
We know, but when I talk to African Americans, the understanding is totally different from what we think we know. We don't understand it. We don't appreciate it. So it's not something that I would want to say, I know. I may not. I just
because I've heard other Africans tell me, you know, they don't see white people as the devil.
Because
they come there nice. They come with their aid. They come helping. They come giving them food and stuff. And I'm like, that's how they get you, honey. That's just like a drug dealer.
They'll even tell you that African Americans are extreme, isn't it?
That are what?
They take it so extremely. They'll tell you that.
Oh, wow.
No, they say that. Yeah, no, they say. And I say that they are living with the extremists. So if they don't take it to that extreme, they won't survive. They have gone through.
We wouldn't.
I mean, how can you?
If we don't keep the face that we do, and a lot of people think it is anger, jealousy, bitter, broken, all of that. You can label us however you want to label us, but all we know how to do, and we have been doing it for centuries, is survive.
No,
and
but
it takes us being brash.
No, but
it takes us being.
No, but if anybody uses those words, it's because they don't know it. Because if you press people, they have no other way but to develop those things so that they can live. No. If anybody, it's because a lot of us don't know the depth and the damage. Because, I mean, the letter that I have read, no, I mean, for you to even
that was all by design.
Yes, and for you to even be alive and the kind of successes that you have chopped and all the things that you have endured, I mean, I think you're far more successful than those who become successful. I am of that opinion. The things that is like Africa. If you look at Africa, in spite of all the things that they portray, what Africa has endured and has achieved is great success. In spite of all indicators, because what we have to deal with.
And we have that blood. African Americans have that blood. That's where we get it from. Our true far way back ancestors.
Yes. Because when people
that blood.
When people don't study it, they think that, oh, we have not done anything. We have done, if these things happen to white people, they will not be alive. But they have done, if we swap it, if we switch it, they will not be alive.
A lot of times I hear, like when people are talking about, when you were talking about the religion aspect, and religion has really done a job. I don't care where you are. Religion has really done a job. The Catholic and the UK had done so much atrocities, all in the name of God. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But
now,
on top of that,
now is even the Pentecostal and the charismatic. They are more dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
They take your brain, they take your money, they take your time, they take your life in the name of God.
Your money.
Yes, they take everything from you. And for you to use your brain, you have to have another form of information. And it's so difficult for even to free people who have been enslaved by this religion. It's very tough.
You know, there's a little known secret. I guess that's a misnomer, but there's a little known secret that not a whole lot of people even know. But I stumbled upon this somewhere in me researching out life. The Vatican, books on history passed around the world, wherever it is. The Vatican has to approve it before it can be printed. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. The Vatican controls that.
Wow.
And I used to be one of those people that used to be questioning even like with the antiquities of Africa, why
Mm-hmm.
haven't you made these other countries give back your history?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Dr. Arikana, I
Yes.
believe it was her, that shed light on. Oh, no, 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 no. No, it wasn't. It was a story I read. I believe it was on Madagascar. I think it was on Madagascar where one of these countries, I want to say the Belgians, somebody stole I think it was a coin that was on the queen's throne, and the country that stole it through the war thing says they have in their country, I'm gonna say Belgium, they have in Belgium a law on the books that anything that they have acquired from stealing from other countries, they cannot give back. They can loan it to that country. Now, see, they told Madagascar they could loan it to them, let's say
They
for
don't give it
10 years or whatever, but they got to give it back to them, even though they stole it from Madagascar. But the law in their country is they can't give it back. And then I went and looked up, some of that, and come to find out there's plenty of those laws on books in a lot of the countries, that things that they've pillaged and stolen from other nations, the law is they get to keep it, but if the country wants it back, they can only get it on loan. Um,
back.
so Madagascar went into agreement that the coin comes home, but they're only gonna do the loan for like 2 or 3 years, which gives that country time to change the law so that they can get their artifacts back. And it just blew me out of the water. That is like, how can they be doing this? And we look at as the outsider, and I guess maybe even for Africans, we question with Africa, well, why they haven't done this? You guys look at us, but why this? That you're in a black continent. Why you guys haven't done that? Why you didn't do this to the Manzungos? Why you didn't do this to the Portuguese? Why you guys didn't do that? And and it wasn't the start of me learning was from Dr. Arikana, like with the French and South Africa and all of those countries over there in the southeast. That a lot of them, when the treaties were signed, they were very ugly stipulations in those treaties, and when they were told, if you don't sign this, we ain't leaving. And so some of them did that out of coercion,
But
and then
but did they ever leave?
no, they ain't gonna ever leave. Like not in a way. Well, because they still have those treaties.
Yes,
So that
just
means
3 years.
they're not gonna leave because they have to make sure they are still exploiting what they agreed to let
Yeah,
them exploit.
they have
So they're
never.
not gonna leave.
No, they have never. The Catholic Church is still here. I went to Catholic school. Still here. They will not teach you the things that will make them fight you. It's still here.
Hmm.
Still here. So
Now
when we say that we're very ignorant of the school, of the history, is because somebody made sure that it will not be put in there. Somebody made sure that
they right they've been trying ever since they found out what was in Africa, ever
Mm,
since they found out what was in them tombs, because you
mm,
have to the saddest part is it was the outsiders that came in to investigate those tombs. The first people inside of it and seen if they would have, Africa for me should have stuck to its ground, took a stand about letting these Manzungus come in and desecrate the tombs of their kings and pharaohs,
mm.
and then to let them take all the treasures that they found to their countries to lend to us. That's crazy.
Anyway.
But that time has just came and gone with it.
Yes. So we are almost 2 hours. You have shared a lot.
I didn't even see that.
We'll still continue, but at least we have an opportunity to keep talking. What I have learned is that a lot of the time, our behavior towards each other is coming from what we know. And
it's media, just like oracles of the Bantu people said early on in the chat. Yes, it is. A lot of it is media. Or was that African Millennium? One of them said it, but a lot of it is media. And the only good thing with that is now we have social media that is not controlled by the elite.
Yes.
Well, it is, but we have freedom within it.
That's right. So we can learn on our pace, and we can pick and choose, at least to get a little of what we should have been told all this while.
Well, that little is as like they say when man stepped on the moon from America, one small step and one giant leap for mankind. It's the same for blacks. It's one small step to learn anything from a continental through the networks that we have today. But for Africa as a whole, and for us as Black people as a whole, it's a giant. It's not so little. It's a giant because now we are seeing.
Yes. It's true. And this is what is going to help our young men and women. The moment they start to at least get the information. Across Africa, you have a lot of young girls going to Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kuwait, Oman to be house helps. And
that is so sad.
The treatment they give them is so bad. But they are not aware that these people are cruel. Majority of them are cruel.
This is my thing, though, because them going to there and I'm gonna compare this with slavery. Okay.
Yes.
With slavery, a lot of people didn't know what happened once they crossed the big ocean.
Yeah.
The stories, what wasn't many Africans coming back until a few hundred years later, so they didn't know what was going on. I can deal with that part. But in today's age, people are coming back home. They escape, they get back home. They can tell people in their neighborhoods. So just like in Kenya, they know in Kenya, those people know that these atrocities are going on. But they still feel the little bit of money that they may make and the opportunity to maybe send some money home that greed is so great within them. They don't care. And they still go. It's just like people trying to cross the ocean to get to Italy, or to Spain or whatever, and they're dying leaving out of the Gambia. What do they call it? The back trail or something.
How do we solve this? You think it's greed?
You have to have more. We have to build Africa to solve that. You have to give opportunity. They have to have the opportunity to make a living.
But these are people who are crossing the Sahara with $10,000.
What?
These are people who cross this Sahara with a lot of money. A lot of them have money.
I've never heard they had all that.
No.
That's the first I've ever heard.
Somebody can raise money. We know people who work here raise money, and they don't have value for that money compared to the infatuation.
Okay, now listen to that mindset of what you just said.
Yes.
They can raise $10,000 to cross the Sahara Desert.
Yes.
To try to go to a country that will make them a slave instead of taking the $10,000 and build a business.
Yes. So there's more to it than just the. I think there's more to it. There's more. I think there's more yes, some of them, not everybody, but some of them, the right information they don't have. The media power is that strong. The people who come there and come and tell them stories is that strong. They
need to stop lying to their own people when they go and they see the atrocity.
Who will stop them?
Who will stop what?
Who will stop them from lying? That would be so difficult.
No. See, because it's the stigma, like we said early, it's the stigma of you saying you went to heaven, so how could you fail? See, that's the mindset of the village people that needs to stop lying and learn to accept that everywhere is not great.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and if you go there and you try and it just didn't work out because all you could get a job doing, because even you have PhDs that come from Africa, you have doctors, you have people that have doctorates that come to America and they're janitors. They're taxi drivers.
Okay, so why don't they go back? PhD.
Because if they go back, the shame of them coming back as a failure is too great.
Ruth,
they'd rather still stay here.
Ruth, do you know what I will say?
Yeah.
It's lack of knowledge on the history. Because then you lose your identity.
But that history also, history is also backed by the lies of their own people that come back from these countries or stay in the country they're in and tell that lie.
I'm talking about the history that Robin Walker will teach you, the history that Rashidi will teach you, the history that Professor Small will teach you. That kind of history. I'm saying that because the moment I got to know some of these things, I have never worried, ever, living in Africa. Never. Because then it builds you differently.
I think that knowledge of being great people,
yes,
of being more than what the Munzugu tries to tell us that we are, or the less of a person they try to teach us that we are, that we were very low on the totem pole. That knowledge is so much power.
Yes, because for me, that's what was
when we're talking about, when we're talking, and that's about self, and that can help build a village, that can help build a person.
Yeah.
But the knowledge of what I'm talking about, when you have in today's age, people coming and going to Dubai, that's what we were talking about. It was basically the slave trade.
Because it's the same.
The current day slave trade.
You know, that class of people have no clue of the existence of this kind of knowledge. And that's
but they also seem to have no clue that other countries is worse off than them.
Yeah, so it's not just the grid, it's a lot of the programming playing out. For me, that program, the moment I got that kind of education, it healed me. I don't know. It healed me, said that I was never worried of, what somebody would say, Africa is this, I didn't care. Your people will do this, I didn't care, because I knew something. And I've continued to feed and to read and to research. I read more of those than any other. I read more of those than I read about engineering or business or money or technology. I read those. I give about 50% of the reading that I do on this. Because it gives you
and
clarity.
Even for people that don't like to read, you can go on YouTube today and have somebody else read it to you.
That's right. Because for me, that data then separates all the other, things. That data is so critical because it takes the fact that America is heaven out right away. It takes it out. Then I will not sacrifice, because now I see it clearly. So I'm living in England. I don't see the England like the average average person will see that England because I have different information. You know, so
Well,
I live in that.
I feel that way.
Yes, I will not see. So when people are making all these choices, I have different kind of, you know, it's like meeting a Rastafarian. People are seeing different world. He's living in a different world, and he's never disturbed. You know, because of that knowledge. So that knowledge of self is powerful. It becomes everything.
And I believe and totally agree with you on that. The it made me learning the different things, learning about the different oppressors, because a lot of people, especially even in the African Americans in America, they really only look at the only oppressor that exists is the Mzungu here in America. They don't look at the French were oppressors to our people, because a lot of us don't connect ourselves to a degree to the continent other than knowing we're black. And so since we're black, we know that we came from slaves or descendants from Africa. And that's about where it stops. Versus when you look at all of the people that stole and oppressed, you know, and we willingly go to their countries and move there. Some of them move to Paris or in France, and move readily to Switzerland and Belgium, and move readily to the UK easily, as if the only oppressor was the American oppressors.
And you see,
and they don't look at it. Those people did even worse to your people than even the white men over here.
Yeah. And the moment your history stops there, you live in constant frustration all your life. The moment your history stops with what the white man has taught us, you will never be happy. Or you live shadowy. So that's why most
different.
People, yes, you live shadowy.
You walk and move and think different. So even though, like I say, even though it was a Mzungu that set me on my path, I was happy he did.
Yes.
Because it opened my eyes to everything. I mean, not everything, but it definitely opened my eyes to
a lot of things.
All of the atrocities.
Yes, because almost
all of our greatness. All of our greatness. Yes.
Because all the things that they have taught us were lies.
Of course.
And this is what
and then somebody said the greatest thing the Mzungu ever did was invented the patent office. I can't remember who said that, but they said the greatest thing that they ever did was created the patent office, because they have not created anything. They've stolen everything. Even their religion.
Yes.
Even their religion.
Yes. They stole everything. So there's a lot that you find. I think that's whenever people are talking, I tell them, listen, I believe in all those things that they teach us, but without this one, these other things that they teach you, they are useless. If you're African, if you're black, all the other things that they have taught you are good. There's principles of management and all the things that they teach you with the white man's examples. They work perfectly for them. But if you're an African, if you don't get these other fundamentals right, all these other things will not create. It's like a seed trying to germinate with a lot of thorns. Where a lot of thorns are put on it. There's no freedom. And when there's no freedom,
it was like another person that does these things lives on here. They were saying about the books in Africa, and that the white people bring over and donate or whatever, and some of them were very, very old textbooks from schooling. But my thing on that is, even with it being old knowledge, if they've never been exposed to that knowledge at all, even those outdated books are important.
Yes.
Because even though we talk about W.D. Du Bois and Malcolm and all of them, and read all of their books, and Professor Smalls, and well, he's still here, but you know, excuse me, but you know, if you go back into the Garvey books and all of that, those were written for the time that they were in.
Yes.
But we're still looking back to them for the knowledge of that. So
Yes.
even if the books, because even if they're donated textbooks of outdated, of what we would call outdated work, it's still in Africa will still give them a better understanding and knowledge, even from those old books. So I want people to be encouraged to, even if they could, if they are repatent, give some of your kids old books, or even some of the old books that you can go to these thrift stores and find and take with you back home to Africa. Because even if they're outdated,
it's not old. Once you have not had it, you have not met it, it's not old. We still read the Bible.
And that one's over. Is thousands of years now. Well, so exactly. So it will still teach them the fundamentals, because that knowledge is still important. It may be now that we have technology and a different way of looking at things, but the fundamentals or the basics in those books are still the same. And if Africa has never been exposed to them ever at all, it would still benefit them.
It's true. A lot of our big men don't know this. And don't have any desire for them. A lot of our people who live in America and in the West don't know this, and they don't care. You know,
and
maybe
that's the key words right there. They don't care. Because if we are over here, don't feel it affects us.
No, they want to read about Moses and Abraham and go to Israel to pray. That's what
they won't read about Mansuma.
No. They want to go to
Saudi
Arabia and pray. They would not want to know anything like this. But maybe a new generation will be aware, because once we plant the seed, there's hope. At the turn of this century, our people will be, you know, even now we are in terms of race, we are number one. You know, we are more than half of the world's population.
You know what's funny? Did you get to listen to that link I sent you last night or this morning?
Which one? Which one was that? The comedy. The one you sent me was the comedy.
No. The one that I sent you that was the leaked information on our president-elect.
No,
a meeting he had with our black leaders. It's the leaked information about our black leaders. A meeting he just had with them.
Okay. Was it a YouTube link or video?
No.
Was it a direct video?
No, it was a link to an audio. It's not even a video. It's an audio clip.
Then I don't have that.
Okay, I'll check this. I thought I sent it to you.
I have the comedy one. You sent a comedy.
This one would have been titled. Hope this doesn't lock off. This one was titled. Oh, you didn't get it.
No. It's
okay, no, I'll send it to you. Sorry, I thought I did. I could have swore I pushed you on that one, but it's they have a plan here, at least for us in America. I don't know what I mean, I already know they want Africa, so I don't know what they're gonna do with Africa either. But he's saying in this clip that he had with the African American, our leaders, which is like Sharpton and all of them, that head of like the NAACP and all of that. Those are our so-called African American leaders. When stuff happens, that's who you call them. But and it got leaked out. Then he told them, he was basically yelling at them that by 2040, he gave them a date. By 2040, America is going to be majority white. We are going to have to be dealing with the Mexicans because the Mexicans are going to be outnumbering us. So we're going to have to go and beg and plead to the Mexicans, and because for them, we are not going to be enough to complain or try to dictate to the Manzungus in America by 2040. So within 20 years, they're saying that we're going to be basically gone.
What are
But
they going to do?
exactly, that is the $1 million question. How
Yes.
is that supposed to happen? So
Yes.
are you finna give us this shot, and that's supposed to wipe us out? That's why you have the RNA in it instead of just regular the DNA that they normally use? Or are you
Do you
finna incarcerate all of us or something? What is finna happen in the next 20 years in America against black people? See, I got to get the hell up out of here. And if
but
my
you know,
children don't want to go and nobody else in my family want to go, I'm so sorry for you. But
but
I'm gonna
this is
have to
what I
leave.
believe. This is what I believe. They have tried millions of ways to destroy. They couldn't succeed.
But technology was not the way that it is now.
Yes.
Because there was a whistleblower here in the he's on YouTube. I saw this a couple of years ago. And he was the head director of, it's the same lab that they use around the world. A lot the world sends crap to his lab to be tested when it needs to be tested, when the testing is beyond their country. So America sends to there, the UK sends to his lab. He runs that lab, and he said that the technology is to a point now they can grow a corn. Let's say black people are the major eaters. Let's say of corn. We're just going to use a hypothetical. Let's say black people are the only people that eat corn, right? Or they are the major group. They can change the genetic makeup that if they wanted to give us a disease, that they can change the genes in that plant, that it would only affect adversely for whoever they designed it for. That's part of that GMO. Um, they can target black people just by our DNA. Let's say we only have certain markers that no other race has. They can modify that vegetable to mess with us. And we wouldn't even know it, because we would be like, well, we didn't go nowhere weird. We didn't eat nothing strange. I don't know why all of a sudden all black people have cancer.
But did you see the same experts what they talk about, what they said about COVID,
Yeah.
about Africa?
Mm-hmm.
But they were not right.
Germ warfare.
Okay, so yes, they can plan all those, but
No. How can you say they weren't right?
were they said that Africa was going to die.
No, they thought it was going to happen but see, what they didn't take into the aspect of was the heat.
But they should have known
I
that
don't care what virus it is. Most of them cannot survive in the heat when it's
yes,
airborne.
but they are experts, so they should have known that.
Mm-mm.
So then they don't know everything, isn't it?
How could they? Okay, well, unless they tested it under some heat, which
No,
that's why
they were
they
going
say the
for,
second wave is going to be worse than the first wave. And the reason it's going to be is because they're going to mutate it. They're going to have to mutate it for it to do what they wanted to do. It didn't do what they wanted it to do. It didn't happen. So yeah, It is true in the aspect of killing off more Africans.
Yes.
That aspect didn't work.
It
That's
didn't.
why they're saying this second wave is going to be way worse than the first wave. And if it hits Africa hard this second time around, then that would be the proof of it being that it's been modified, because the conditions in the weather are not going to change.
But
The standard of living has not changed.
But they have not always had everything right, isn't it? There's always something that they miss.
Well, and that's the grace of the Almighty.
Yes. So there is always something that they will miss.
We are the original people, and you cannot kill out his original people.
No, and there's always this underestimate of our intelligence as well. But we know that we are not that.
No, they don't ever. If they didn't they don't overestimate that.
No.
They know it very well. That's why they try to hide, and that's why they try to keep the division, and that's why if they did, they would mess up.
Yes. You know, so I think anyway.
So they know.
So we want to say thank you very much. We have touched on a lot of things, and it is more of talking.
It was nice being here to be able to chat with you.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks for having me and letting me share my thoughts and us brainstorming.
Yes, your father was. It's about what's the time here? It's about 12:54. It's almost 1 a.m. here.
Oh wow. And I'm barely reaching 7 p.m.
Today was a very hot day. We had to do a lot of things, and then we came in late as well. But it's good, because what we share, we're always learning, and somebody else will pick one or two from what we share.
So, and that's the great thing about communication.
Yes.
My final words.
Yes.
Whew, that's hard. It's all we can do is to continue to seek knowledge. I don't care if it's in book or if it's picking somebody else's brain. I don't care if it's listening to other people or seeing things on YouTube or any other social media, as long as you continue to learn. I try to learn something new, at least one thing every day.
Yes.
And I push that for whoever's listening, whoever may see this, to have love and understanding and an open mind on accepting our people, and for people to truly understand, because they try to make it seem like African Americans and Africans were Africans. If you're black, you're African. Yeah, we are, but we are also different. People try to make it seem as we are not different, but we are very different. Yes, we're black in skin. Yes, we are descendants of Africa, but we are still very different in culture and knowledge, and as a people, we're different. And I pray that we can find unity, but we have to stop acting like there is no difference, and just because we're black, we're African. There's more to the makeup of a person than just the color of our skin or are a descendant of. Just like in Africa, if you're from whatever tribe, let's say the Yoruba, is not the same as they say. They're not the same as an Igbo. Nope. An Igbo is not the same as a Hausa. African Americans are not the same as African continental Africans. We're different. We're very different. And when we understand that, I think we would have a better understanding of growing closer, because we have to accept each other's differences. Everybody wants African Americans or diaspora to leave their mindset and just be Africans. We can't do that. We're different. On the continent, you have all your tribes. They're all different. The people are different. And there's certain things, yes, you do accept as human beings, but we have to understand that we're all different and I bring something different to the table. So to understand that, I think we'll bridge that gap a little better than trying to shove down the diasporans throat. We have to leave everything we kind of know behind and learn just to be African. It's one thing to tell us, come learn the culture, find out who you know, what your blood came from. That's one thing. Instead of telling me I have to let everything of me that makes me go. That's a hard pill to swallow, and I don't think it's right for that to be asked of us. So I think that we need to grow in that understanding that just as the tribal differences, there is the difference between diasporan Africans versus continental, and not try to make one just only be one thing. We would go further. So I guess that would be my final words.
All right. Thank you very much. Amen and amen.
And
Thank you.
thank you for all that tuned in and listening.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you very much.
All right. Get some rest, mister.
Thank you, madam. Thank
All right. And we're out.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you very much for taking your time to watch this. It's part of the talking. And I think a lot of things start by talking, and we have to keep sharing, interacting, and hopefully others will take it up, and hopefully we'll be able to build something more significant beyond the talking. So I want to thank you very much for taking your time to watch this. And I want to thank Ruth for taking her time to share her heart out with us. So I thank you very much.